Hello everyone, a very logical day to all of you and a very logical Tuesday to all of you. So here we are, April 25th, the first editorial of the Indian Express, and I hope you remember your resolution that you had taken on Monday. So the resolution is that you have to read one extra article from the Hindu. What we are doing now is, we are doing the Indian Express, the first article that we are discussing. What you need to do is to graduate. If you remember the word, you need to graduate and read one article from the Hindu. So let's see what we have here today in the first editorial of the Indian Express, April 25th. That is crisis in Khartoum. Now, we do not know where Khartoum is. If you are not well versed or well conversed with the geography of the world, you might not know. But if you remember Sudan, you will get to know this, yes, Khartoum is there. So I hope you have that world map in your mind. If not, we'll take it here. So let's see. The ongoing conflict in Sudan has already led to hundreds of deaths and several thousands several thousand injuries. At least one Indian national is reportedly among the deceased. Like many other countries, India too is trying to evacuate nationals from the country. 2 Indian Air Force planes are waiting to assist in rescue operations in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and one Navy vessel is at Port Sudan on the Red Sea. Remember these words, and we are going to look them up in the atlas. Okay? Saudi Arabia, Navy, and Port Sudan and Red Sea. So over the years, New Delhi has been adept at using its diplomatic skill and leveraging goodwill to ensure that Indians overseas are able to return to the country when they are faced with a crisis at their destinations. Right? So here, adept, you can understand that New Delhi has been adept at using its diplomatic skill. Right? So adept is to be skilled at. You can understand it from this word skill. तो अडेप्ट का मीनिंग अगर लिटरली तुम्हें नहीं भी आता होगा तो भी समझ सकते हो कि skillful would be the meaning of adept. Now, given the nature of conflict in the current multipolar, often divided global strategic scenario, India's diplomatic corps need to be prepared for more such situations. ठीक है, इंडिया की जो डिप्लोमेटिक बॉडी है, ठीक है, या डिप्लोमेसी जो यूज करती है, डिप्लोमेटिक स्किल्स जो यूज करती है, उसको ज्यादा जरूरत है समझने की, या इट हैज टू बी प्रिपेयर्ड, इट हैज टू बी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर दिस. क्योंकि ग्लोबल स्ट्रेटेजिक सिनेरियो इट इज डिवाइडेड, इट इज मल्टीपोलर, दैट मीन्स देयर आर मोर देन 2 poles. 2 poles होता तो बाइपोलर हो जाता, नॉर्थ पोल एंड साउथ पोल. Multipolar means there are many different important or strategic areas in the world, or sides, aspects you can say. So Sudan, the third largest country in Africa, is immensely rich in resources from gold to fossil fuels. Its strategic geography and inherent value have made it a target for exploitation. ठीक है, सी लड़ाइयाँ, battles, युद्ध कहाँ और क्यों होते हैं, और resources की वजह से ही होते हैं, whether any war it is, right? It is for the resources. So target for exploitation by world powers, countries in its neighborhood, as well as local strongmen. The current crisis can be traced back to 2019 when the 30-year brutal dictatorship of Omar al-Bashir was toppled by popular movements demanding democracy. People wanted democracy. Was it given? No. Before democracy, what was there? Dictatorship. And what is dictatorship? You can understand it. Dictate, dictator. Hitler याद अगर होता है तो वही dictatorship था, उसको despotism भी कहते हैं. और brutal मतलब cruel. ठीक है, atrocities करने वाले जो rulers होते हैं, individual rulers, single rulers, dictators or despots or tyrants they are called. So the major point here will be that Sudan, or rather Indian nationals, are there in the country here where there is an ongoing conflict, right? What is Delhi doing? Delhi is very skillfully taking those people out, right? And they are able to return to the country. Right. Coming to the second one now. Here was our major point. Now I am taking the part of the paragraph and the major point along with it. So over these years, New Delhi has been adept at using its diplomatic skill and leveraging goodwill to ensure that Indians overseas are able to return to the country when they are faced with the crisis of their destinations. Now, given the nature of, okay, we have read this, I'll come to the next one now. So the international community welcomed the imminent establishment of democracy in Sudan. That was in 2019, that was continued in the paragraph. 2019 say they demanded for a democracy. Was it given? No. They said, okay, fine, internationally all the countries were very happy. Imminent मतलब very quick, आने वाली है, बस impending जिसको कहते हैं. कैसे डेमोक्रेसी का डिमांड किया है और उमर अल बशीर को हटा भी दिया, डिथ्रोन भी कर दिया है. अब क्या होगा? अब डेमोक्रेसी आ जाएगी. But that promise stands shattered for now and exposes the limits of multilateral organizations, including the UN. That means people wanted democracy there, but the UN or the other international agencies also, organizations also could not do anything. So that means the country is still not a democratic one. The current clashes between the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, a paramilitary group led by Mohammad Hamdan Dagalo, and the army, headed by Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, seem to be over the proposed transition to civilian rule. This was the proposed one. On April 24, India began Operation Kaveri to evacuate around 4,000 nationals currently stranded in Khartoum and other parts of Sudan. New Delhi has done well to leverage its diplomatic capital in West Asia and Africa, notably with Saudi Arabia in this instance, for the benefits of Indians abroad during a crisis. इससे पहले पैराग्राफ में कहा था कि New Delhi is very skillfully using its diplomatic skills and leveraging it. So, similar operations were conducted in Ukraine, Operation Ganga, to evacuate students and others from the conflict zone, in Afghanistan in 2021, and even more from war on Yemen in 2015. So this comes up as a major point, and the rest, this was the occasions that the author mentioned. So they become examples to show that New Delhi has already done this in the previous years, right? It has evacuated the Indians, brought them from overseas to our country back safe. So that was only the example. The major point here was that they wanted democracy, but the democracy, the promise or the dream still stands shattered. Now, and as early as the first Gulf War, 1991, wo examples continue ho rahe hain. Air India, then the public carrier, was pressed to evacuate over 160,000 people from Kuwait. The fact remains that lakhs of Indians work and live across the world, and the diaspora is a crucial part of the economy. Even the larger social and kinship networks of most Indians. Every conflict then is a potential crisis. पोटेंशियल क्राइसिस है मतलब कॉन्फ्लिक्ट कहीं भी हो दुनिया में, वहां पे इंडियंस तो हैं ही सही. ठीक है, ऐसे बड़े सिंपल तरीके से बोला कि इंडियंस तो हैं. अब जो डायस्पोरा का मतलब होता है जो इंडियंस बाहर चले गए, जो माइग्रेट करके गए, so that becomes the where the Indians are scattered there. So that becomes the diaspora, right? So it is a potential crisis for New Delhi. Whatever is happening in the world outside the country, our government has to bring those people back. Fortunately, thus far, Indian governments have acquitted themselves well in such scenarios. मतलब अभी तक तो इंडिया ने अच्छा काम किया है. अभी तक गवर्नमेंट हर कहीं से, जहां कहीं भी लड़ाई हो रही हो, युद्ध हो रहा हो, वहां से लोगों को लेके आई है. Right? So it has acquitted themselves. The governments have acquitted themselves means they stand clear, blameless. Nobody can blame that India did not do a good work. No. So the governments have acquitted themselves well in such scenarios. They must continue to do so. So the international community, of which India seeks to be a crucial moral voice on its part, must do all it can to bring the warring parties in Sudan to agree to a ceasefire and ensure the transition that was promised in 2019. Transition was from this autocratic rule to the democratic rule, right? तो ये करने में भी इंडिया को, क्योंकि इंडिया क्या है, उसका इमेज ऐसा बन गया कि वो वर्ल्ड लीडर बन जाती है जब कोई भी प्रॉब्लम होती है तो. So it is a moral voice. In that way it is said. So India is a moral voice for the international community, and it should work in such a manner that there is a ceasefire in Sudan. So what is Delhi doing? It is evacuating the people from the other, from those areas, which it has already done many times, and that too positively, with a positive image, right? तो वो क्या है? There is no blame on it, and the major point of this paragraph will be here itself. So every conflict then is a potential crisis for New Delhi. Fortunately, thus far, Indian governments have acquitted themselves well. They must continue to do so. ठीक है, अब तक किया है तो अभी भी आगे करना है, और फिर ये ट्राई करना है कि सूडान में डेमोक्रेसी आ जाए. So now, if you keep all these three paragraphs, it was a single paragraph. I divided it into three. If you can understand the 3 points of these 3 parts, here it is. Then I'll give you the main idea. Or rather, I'll give you the main idea first. So government's efforts to evacuate nationals from Sudan are commendable. ये हो गया हमने जो किया था सेकंड में, कि दिल्ली ने अपना काम अच्छा किया है और अडेप्ट किया है. ठीक है, इस अडेप्ट से आप रिलेट कर सकते हो. commendable is to do a good job, so you can come up with a praise. So you have done a commendable job. That means people are going to praise or appreciate. So Delhi has done this. Then, but conflict itself demands a durable solution. But के बाद उसने कहा कि conflict तो इतना चल रहा है, तो एक durable solution के लिए उसने आखिरी में कहा था कि सूडान को एग्री होना चाहिए कि वो डेमोक्रेसी कर ले अपनी कंट्री में. क्यों? क्योंकि वो 2019 से डिमांड में था. ठीक है, और तब से आज तक हुआ नहीं है, तो इट इज नाउ 2023, 4 साल हो गए वहां पर. सो जो प्रॉमिस किया गया था वो हो जाना चाहिए एज अ सोल्यूशन, डेमोक्रेसी होना चाहिए. सो दिस बिकम्स योर major point, including the main points that we had identified in the passage, because the rest of it was mainly the reasoning as we do always, and the examples you saw that the more than one and a half part of that paragraph was devoted to giving examples of the years, or the years and the time where and how many people had been evacuated from the different areas of the world. वो सब एग्जाम्पल था कि दिल्ली ने ये सब किया है तो दिल्ली अभी भी कर सकती है. ठीक है, अब हम जाते हैं वापस से इस पे. नाउ इफ यू सी हियर, ये रहा सूडान, ये रहा खार्टूम. ठीक है, हमने और क्या करा था? रेड सी क्या था? ये रही रेड सी. ठीक है, सऊदी अरेबिया हमें हेल्प करेंगे. यहां पर खड़े हैं लोग सूडान से, ये पोर्ट सूडान है. ठीक है, खार्टूम से या सूडान में जहां कहीं भी इंडियंस होंगे, यहां से सऊदी अरेबिया ले जाएंगे और वहां से इंडिया. ठीक है, इफ यू गो बैक टू दैट पैसेज यू कैन सी, पहले जब लड़ाई हुई थी तब सूडान और साउथ सूडान, इन दोनों में मतलब दे वर डिवाइडेड इनटू 2, जैसे नॉर्थ वियतनाम साउथ वियतनाम या कोरिया नॉर्थ कोरिया साउथ कोरिया, वैसे सूडान को भी किया गया था कई साल पहले, राइट? सो नाउ दिस इज अगेन द सेम प्रॉब्लम. इफ आई गो बैक, I'll go back to that part where they mentioned here, Port Sudan on the Red Sea. Saudi Arabia is there. Air Force planes are waiting to assist in rescue operations in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and Port Sudan on the Red Sea, right? If you remember this, we can come back to that part here. We marked Port Sudan, we marked Jeddah, right? ये रेड सी ये रहा, इस तरफ ये, सऊदी अरेबिया इधर, सूडान इधर, यहाँ से उधर फटाफट चले जाएंगे और वहां से बच जाएंगे, इंडिया आ जाएंगे वापस फिर. This is why I came up with this image, right? this is what you need to do, that you should have at least a brief knowledge about the geography of the world. जो भी कंट्री मेंशन्ड है न्यूज़पेपर्स में, आप उस कंट्री को सर्च मारो. ऐसा नहीं है कि यू वोंट बी एबल टू रिमेम्बर इट, राइट. ऑल दिस यू हैव डन इन योर 7th 8th 9th 6th 7th 8th 9th की सोशल स्टडीज में, ज्योग्राफी में यू हैव डन दिस. The point is you were not focusing on those things at that particular time, because most of you find civics, geography and history very boring. It is not so. It is only giving you the knowledge of the world where you live, right? So पता होना चाहिए कि जो भी country, from now on what you can do is, whatever country is mentioned in the newspapers, whatever you are reading, right? Even if you are reading a novel and you see a country mentioned there, just go back to the atlas and see where that country is. पता चल जाएगा तुम्हें. कुछ दिनों में आदत हो जाएगी, कुछ दिनों में पूरा वर्ल्ड मैप तुम्हारे दिमाग में हो जाएगा. ठीक है, because you are still, most of you might not know this world map. ठीक है, पता नहीं है, ठीक है, कोई सी भी चीज कहीं है. अब देखो तुम्हें इजिप्ट भी दिख जाएगा तुम्हें यहाँ पर, राइट. ये पूरा ये जो कॉन्टिनेंट है अफ्रीका है. अफ्रीका से अगर तुम्हें साउथ अरेबिया दिख रहा है, दैट मीन्स you know where Europe is, you know where Asia is, and on what side can we see Africa. If we are in India तो वो वेस्ट में आएगा, ईस्ट में आएगा, नॉर्थ में आएगा, कहाँ आएगा. अफ्रीका के ऊपर कौन सा कॉन्टिनेंट है, अफ्रीका के ऊपर कौन सा सी है, राइट. यहाँ पे रेड सी है तो ऊपर मेडिटेरेनियन सी हो सकती है. ढूंढो, पढ़ो, सुनो, राइट. you will be able to like visualize it, you will be able to understand it. It only focus, it's just going to take you a few days where you are attached to the geography of the world. हो गया, ठीक है. अब आते हैं हम, इसका मेन पॉइंट कर लिया है. then we'll come up with a vocabulary and that's it. So deceased you can understand is a person who departs. इसीलिए वो departed और defunct हो जाता है. अगर कोई चीज है, कोई सिस्टम डिसीज हो जाता है तो वो defunct हो जाते हैं, right? Otherwise it departed soul. Deceased is a person who dies, and that is why I have written the word departed. So evacuate को vacuum से relate कर सकते हो. You can understand that we need to relate the thing so that we are able to remember the word. So that is evacuate. So it is either to leave that part or it is to vacate. Adept we've done, skilled, skillful, expert, adroit. एक और word हो सकता है dexterous. लिवरेज अभी हमने किया था जब हमने डिप्लोमेटिक स्किल्स की बात की थी. सो लिवरेज, पावर, इन्फ्लुएंस, क्लाउड. मल्टीपोलर, हैविंग मोर देन 2 सेंटर्स. कॉर्प्स, फोर्सेस, आउटफिट्स, ग्रुप्स हमने कर लिया है, समझ में आ गया था. टॉपल दी गवर्नमेंट कब होती है, जब वो गवर्नमेंट कोलैप्स हो जाती है, अपसेट हो जाती है. इसका मतलब इमिनेंट इज इम्पेंडिंग, फोर्थकमिंग, अबाउट टू कम, पेंडिंग. सिर्फ पेंडिंग भी कर सकते हैं हम वर्ड. इम्पेंडिंग तो सही है, पेंडिंग होता है अबाउट टू कम वाला, ठीक है. इमिनेंट विथ एन आई है. इमानेंट भी होता है. इट इज समथिंग दैट इज एग्जिस्टिंग एवरीवेयर, राइट. रैम्पेंट जिसे हम कह सकते हैं. या इसका एक और होता है वर्ड एमिनेंट. कंफ्यूजिंग वर्ड्स. एमिनेंट विल बी a renowned person or a reputed personality or a celebrated author or a distinguished scientist or, ठीक है. वेल नोन तो इजी वर्ड हो जाता है. फेमस, अच्छा इन सबका सिंपल वर्ड लिखना हो तो तुम फेमस लिख लो, वेल नोन लिख लो, ठीक है. नोटेबल लिख लो या नोटेड लिख लो, ठीक है. सो डिस्टिंग्विश, सेलिब्रेटेड, एमिनेंट, रिनाउंड, रेप्यूटेड, वेल नोन, फेमस, इतने सारे वर्ड्स हो जाते हैं एमिनेंट के. हमने वर्ड क्या करना था, एक एमिनेंट किया, एक इमानेंट किया ए के साथ, और जो दिया हुआ है वो इमिनेंट है आई के साथ. दैट इज, सो फोकस ऑन द स्पेलिंग. सो इट विल बी इम्पेंडिंग और पेंडिंग. So these are 3 different confusing words. Shattered. You wanted to go on a trip. You were not allowed and your dreams were shattered. Shattered यानी चूर चूर हो जाना. ठीक है? So crushed, traumatized. Brutal. ठीक है? How brutal of him, how mean of him. Mean तो छोटी सी बात होती है, लेकिन brutal cruelty होता है. Atrocities होता है, and then you can relate it to tyranny, autocracy, despotism. So it is being harsh, being cruel, or atrocities. Cruelty यानी atrocities. So dictator यानी dictate करना यानी अपनी ही बात जो जबरदस्ती follow करवाता है वो dictator, dogmatic. Diaspora we said it is the people who migrate. So migration से relate हो सकता है, scatter हो सकता है, और dispersion हो सकता है. So you have the root word disperse here. Then acquitted, you know that acquitted is free of blame. So free of blame हो जाता है, ये हो जाता है clear blameless. ठीक है? So that's all for today. And thank you, and I hope that you remember your resolution. So listening to this, one editorial and reading one extra editorial and the previous resolutions जो भी miss हो गया है उसके पहले वाली जो recordings है वो भी देखना है, right? So that's all. Thank you and have a very logical day ahead.